So on this draft lottery last night, I don't know if everybody's familiar with how this thing works. Like, this thing is audited. This thing is monitored. Look, what they did in 1985 and Patrick and Stern and the Knicks, I don't know. Maybe there was some shenanigans in that one. Um, this, just so everybody understands, literally, if they did intentionally rig it, the people involved would go to jail for committing fraud at a high level, because this is a big, big business. I do understand the odds. I understand what it means for the Mavericks with a 1.8% chance to get number one overall, especially after they traded Luka to the Lakers. I get it. And it reeks. It does. But it's not rigged, people. It's not actually rigged. Now, here's where I think there is an absolute argument to be made. When you look at the results, and by the way, for those that didn't know this, the Wizards going into this had a 47, near 48% chance, okay, so nearly a coin flip of being in the 5th or 6th spot. The chances that they would get number one were 14%, so there was an 86% chance they wouldn't. The chances of getting a top two were only 27.5%. So the chances were 72.5% that they wouldn't. The chances, the highest percent chance was that they would get 5th overall. The second highest percent chance was that they would get 6th overall. If you didn't know that, I'm just sharing that with you. The way it works basically is that there are 1,004 ping pong ball combinations, and they weight it for the teams with the worst records, but they don't weight it the way they used to. In 2019, to avoid tanking at the end of the season, they gave the 3 worst teams in the league equal chances of getting number one overall. And they gave them 140 combinations out of 1,000, or 14%. So Utah and Charlotte and Washington each had a 14% chance to get number one overall. And then you keep going down the list until you get to the last team in the field, and that was 5 combinations overall, or a 0.5% chance. 5 combinations of 4 ping pong balls out of 1,000 combinations. There is, and I read a lot about this late last night, there is one combination that they actually rule out. So there are 4 balls numbered 1 through 14. They draw 4 balls, and so there's a 4-number combination. But to get it to 1,000, because there are actually 1,001 possible combinations with 4 balls numbered 1 through 14, you can do your factorial, your statistical factorial exercise to come up with it. But I'll just take my word. There are 1,001 possible combinations in any order. By the way, any order, it's just like a lottery. It doesn't matter what order they're pulled in. And they exclude the following combination: 11, 12, 13, 14. So if 11, 12, 13, 14 get pulled up, that gets excluded so that they can get down to 1,000 to make the percents cleaner. And the top 3 have a 14% chance. They're assigned 140 of the 1,000 possible winning combinations. But again, that means there's an 86% chance they're not getting number one overall. And in the Wizards' case, they had the second seed, or the second worst record. They had a 14% chance of getting the number one pick, a 13.42% chance of getting the second, a 12.75% of getting the third, and an 11.97% of getting the fourth. They only pull for the first 4 picks. And then after that, 5 through 14 are based on the remaining teams that didn't land in the top 4 in the lottery based on record. And that's why Bub Carrington's shot in the season finale against Miami cost the Wizards the worst record, which would have meant the worst case would have been the 5th pick. The worst case going in was 6th, and they got 6th. And there was a 1 in 5 chance of getting 6th, and there was a 47.86% chance that they would get 5 or 6. Everything else was lower odds. It still stinks. It stinks because there's always a chance, and you're playing and losing all these games, and you're going to end up with multiple teams in front of you with much better records, including the Dallas Mavericks. And I think an underrated part of the story last night was San Antonio got the number 2 pick. But my thing here is it's actually, people, just so you know, I mean, I guess there's a possibility they're committing fraud and risking going to prison. But if you assume that there's not actually an intentional fraud taking place, I think what they need to fix is, I think the worst teams in the league, I think they need to change the weighting. I think that you can avoid, you can create a system that certainly incentivizes less tanking at the end of the season, but also give those top 2-3 teams a better chance of ending up with a top 2 or 3 pick. And I just think that there need to be more combinations out of the 1,000 pulled for the worst teams. And it should be weighted just differently and just increase the chances, increase the odds of the worst teams getting better picks. Because here's the situation over the last few years, since 2019. Okay, 2019, the Pelicans had a 6% chance. They won 33 games. The first year of this, they got Zion Williamson. Minnesota got Anthony Edwards. They were one of the worst teams. They were the 3rd worst. Yeah. So and then 2021, the 2nd worst team got the top pick. Detroit got Cade Cunningham. Orlando was the 2nd worst. They got Banchero. The Spurs were the 2nd worst. They got Wembanyama. But the last 2 years, the Hawks were the 9th worst team. They got number 1 overall. Rissache last year, number 1. And the Mavericks were the 11th worst out of the 14 teams. They had a 1.8% chance, and they're going to get Cooper Flag. And the Wizards, I don't know. Derek Queen's a possibility. We'll have plenty of time to preview the NBA draft.